As we know, Intel released their Skylake CPUs a couple of days ago. It's the 8th of August, so I thought I'd just put my opinion on it out. So currently DDR4 is getting pretty cheap, as you can see here. We're on Overclockers UK. 16 gig 2400 kit is £84, not really much more than DDR3 at the minute. Also got 8 gig of Corsair stuff here, 3000 MHz, £66. You can't get 3000 MHz DDR3 for that price, and even 2666 set you back 60 quid. Pretty much same price as DDR3. It is higher speeds but with lower latencies. I have heard that the Kingston DDR4 kits are actually the best for overclocking and holding tighter timings. But obviously it's all higher performance than DDR3. Obviously the latency is a fair bit higher, but a lot of these kits tend to overclock well, and you can tighten up the timings yourself, especially with all the tweaking that's going on with this DDR4. Next thing I'd like to bring up is the Z170 motherboards. They now allow base clock overclocking, which is very nice. As a person who does a lot of benchmarking and overclocking, I get very bored of Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge and Haswell, because they only allowed you to overclock via the multiplier, and haven't really been able to do proper base clock overclock since 1156, 1366 and 775, so I've had to go back to them for base clock overclocking. But now, as you can see on these new Z170 boards, this is a i5. Admittedly this is on LN2 cooling, as you can see here. This person has managed to get theirs to 552 MHz on the base clock, which is pretty impressive. That's on a Asus motherboard. There's another one here, Submission, 470 on the base clock. These are pretty impressive clocks, similar to what you'd get on P45, 775 boards or X38, around 500 MHz. These are both high-end boards. These are Asus Maximus 8 boards, a Gene and a Formula, I think it was. Yeah, well, an Extreme. So these are high-end boards. I have seen TTL's got a Z170-A, and that managed to do like about 300, I think it was. I've also seen someone on the Linus Tech Tips forum get about 300 with a lower end board. So, but even 300's a huge improvement from like 110, 1.5, which we've been getting since Z77 all the way up to Z97 really, or even Z68. The next thing I'd like to bring up is the performance of the new i5 and the pricing of this new i5. As you can see here, I've got both of them up at OC UK. The new i5 is £40 more, and it's only a small IPC improvement from the previous generation. That 3.9 GHz as well as actually a boost clock, so it is actually still clocked at 3.5 out of the box. You can actually see at CCL the pricing is fairly similar. It's a little bit cheaper, to be fair. It's almost the same price. At that, you probably go for the Skylake i5. However, the i7 is where it gets very interesting, because the 4790K was pushing it a bit. I mean, it's £260 on overclockers, £270 on CCL, which was pretty close to the 5820K, which you can get for around £290 to £310 at the minute. And with the new Skylake CPU, as you can see here, £320 for a quad-core i7 at Overclockers and £283 at CCL. So not really good value for money, to be honest, because it is only a small IPC increase over the 4790K, yet you are paying a huge amount for it. And with Haswell E you can get an extra 2 cores, which will give you a lot more performance if you actually need those extra threads from the hyperthreading. You might as well go with that 5820K, and honestly if you're gaming then you should just be going for the i5 anyway, to be fair. And as you can see here, you can get a good bundle from Overclockers. That doesn't include RAM, but £400. That might even include RAM actually, I can't remember, but it's a £50 saving. Yeah, it is just the motherboard and the CPU. So then you could get this Team Group Elite 2400 MHz, 16 gig of RAM, 83 quid on top of that. You're looking at under £500 to go to X99, and with that it's like the equivalent if you were to buy the same RAM and that new 670K, you're looking at paying less than £100 for a motherboard, and you're going to get a fairly low end board, so you might as well have those extra 2 cores. The pricing on it's crazy really. Now the other interesting thing to bring up as well is sort of the results on liquid nitrogen and the sort of higher scores with these. They tend to be overclocking a bit higher from what I've seen than Devil's Canyon and Haswell were. They were topping out, well, a bit lower than these. I mean, these are up to 6.8 already. Ivy Bridge could just about get over 7 on the very best chips, and I expect we'll see over 7 on these chips, which means they do overclock a little bit better on LN2. Another thing that's really interesting though is with this new reference clock overclocking thing that they've brought back, is that it might unlock the Pentiums and i3s again and make us able to overclock them. I mean, if you can get like 500 odd megahertz base clock on a Maximus 8 Extreme, or even like 200 on a lower end board, you're looking at 100% increase over the stock clocks on an i3 or a Pentium. Could be huge, and for those people building low end systems, it could be a really good option for them, because at the moment they're stuck with going with the Pentium Anniversary Edition, which is unlocked but only has dual cores, or they go with a locked i3 which costs nearly twice as much. Once the Pentium's overclocked, it is nearly as fast, if not faster, than the locked i3, which costs twice as much. But they have the hyperthreading to get 4 threads, which they'll need to run some games that are stupid and lock people out of things with having 2 threads and stupid things like that. But it does mean if we have the option to overclock i3s, you could be looking at surpassing stock i5 performance with an i3, and even though it's a dual core, it might be fine for single thread gaming. So that is my thoughts on Intel Skylake and this new release. I think it's good for overclockers because it brings in new interesting things for us to do with the base clock. But to be honest, for gaming, I wouldn't recommend it really, unless you're upgrading from a very old platform. Same old stuff really. If you're going to upgrade to an i7, need hyperthreading, workstations and stuff, X99 looks like the way to go. So yeah, see ya.